It's Dega, baby. Get ready for some Talladega nights. A little shaking, a little bacon, and a whole lot of chaos, as we always do. Join us on the Backroad as we take you through our favorite DFS plays and our favorite bets for this Super Speedway Spectacular on the weekend. Hang with us. We'll be right back.
It's a non-points race, but it is a short race. Checker flag. That's all this race is.
I think you're muted, Elliot.
Fantastic start. I love it.
Well, yeah. What a way to as Elliot figures that out, we're going to welcome everyone in to a little Talladega. We're Backroad, and we are here locked and loaded. We only have a couple races left this season, and I am ready to bring in the green flags, the green tickets, and the green screens this week. How are you feeling, my friend, as we head back to Talladega once again?
Listen, super speedway racing, Cody and I both absolutely love it. It's just way too much fun to watch. The sweat sometimes can be a little bit overwhelming, but just like you, I'm ready to get back to green. Texas, much like a lot of stuff that happened to me when I used to live there, I want to leave it in the rear view because I was not a very big fan of what ended up happening at the end of that race. But yeah, a lot of fun. Can't wait for Talladega.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I think we got Elliot back up here as well, our faithful host. How are you, Elliot? You got a copy on us, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, I'm grateful to be back, and I was ready to come back, but clearly my equipment was not, so gotta love the perils of live streaming. But hey, we're back at it. We're back at it for Talladega this week, and it's always a good night to be rolling down the back road here on In Between Media. Thanks to everybody for tuning in this evening.
Absolutely. I feel like I haven't seen you in months, Elliot, so I know you've been busy over there plugging away for Pitt Athletics, so I appreciate your presence. I appreciate Rod's presence, and I appreciate the IBT family here once again. If you guys are new to the channel, we are loaded. We are jam-packed every single day here between the website, between the YouTube channel, so make sure you guys are subscribing, checking us out. And what do you guys say? I think we have to look a little bit back in the rear view at what was kind of a disappointing end to a fun Texas race.
Yeah, hey, heading into Talladega, they always say you're driving more out the rear view, so we got to take advantage of that for a couple of minutes and look back at Texas. So I think what happens to me on StreamYard is, so it mutes the sound when we have our little bumpers there on my phone. I hit tap for sound because I love hearing our little bumper music. It's a good cue. And for some reason, turning the bumper music on just totally mutes everything else. So it's quite a mess over there.
Guys, looking back at Texas last week, how are we feeling about this race? It was another one of those. If this was about 50 miles shorter, I was in the green. I was feeling happy on it. This is another race. I hate to say it, but I was fully in the red. I didn't have a huge card out there. I went winless on it. Very terrible day for me. I was all in on Richard Childress Racing. That number 8 car, that number 3 car with Austin Dillon. I thought they were gonna have a great day, and it went up in flames right away, Elliot.
Yeah, I mean, this last week, Texas, it's a decent race, but it never has put on the greatest show. We got a little bit of controversy there at the end with Larson and Bubba Wallace fighting for it. William Byron ends up taking the win. And at the end of the day, obviously people are going to look at any reason they can to poke Bubba Wallace. He said he choked. I think he probably did kind of choke at the end there. Byron getting the win is no surprise. But at the end of the day, honest to God, I think we're all glad that this race is almost certainly moving out of the playoffs and into the spring next season.
Rod, how are you feeling about it? How are you feeling about this race in general? I'm going to complete agreement here with Elliot.
As a NASCAR fan and as a fan of actually watching racing, I loved the race. As a NASCAR prognosticator and a bettor, I was not too thrilled. A little bit mad that Larson didn't end up with that win. Mad that I overlooked William Byron in the whole thing. But,
Yeah.
I had Brad Keselowski as a long shot at 14-1 to win. Logano showed up and didn't show up. Like he was there, but was not there. Didn't do me any well. I mean, I had Byron as a top 5. That was pretty much but I didn't have him as an outright. I hit Busher over Bush, so that was pretty good. But I got tanked out of a host of our group bet by it was ridiculous. So yeah, I'm not too thrilled about the way Texas turned out.
I will say shout out full tank with Phil. He was on last week when you guys were both away, and he called Byron out. He loved him on the outright. So hopefully you guys tailed Phil and not me last week. But yeah, man, shout out William Byron. Like talk about a team that's just in the right place at the right time. I do feel for Bubba Wallace a little bit, as you kind of alluded to, Elliot, because man, this guy can't catch a break, but he's gotta clutch up in these situations. And like he's talked about, and I'm happy he shared his struggles with anxiety, and it feels like that kind of creeps in late in these races here. And I mean, he raced Larson really, really well, and Larson ended up in the wall because of no doing of Bubba, but kind of his own doing, and just the car. But you feel for the kid.
Yeah, and with Bubba, I mean, every once in a while in the playoffs, you have these guys who are one of the lower seeds who just race their ass off, hit a really hot patch, start to run well, and end up pointing their way in when they really don't have the playoff points to stand on. If a guy like Bubba has a run like Truex did in the first playoff round, there's no way he's getting out of that. So props to that team, and there certainly is no counting them out yet, especially with how good they are at Talladega, which is a nice transition into this week's Horizon Forecast.
Let's do it.
Hey, Michael, it was only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
So this week we are at the Talladega Superspeedway, NASCAR's biggest track. And really the comps here, you got Talladega, you got Daytona, and now you have Atlanta with similar superspeedway racing. And we know those are the comps, and we know that chaos is the number one thing here for sure.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to handicapping this race, at least for me, guys, I'm looking at smart veteran drivers who know how to run these super speedways. I mean, how many times did we see it at Daytona? There were people who just totally bailed out, and you can't bail out so much that you lose the draft and you end up a lap down here. But you have to know when to shake and when to bake it and when to just let it cook out and not be in it. So that's something I'm factoring in here. Rod, are you factoring in those veteran drivers? And also, what does recent form mean to you here coming to the big one?
Yeah, I mean, for this one, though, honestly, the whole thing is just basically go for or bet on the people you want to root for, because in the end, a crash up front can take out everybody and you're left lurched, right? I mean, you can do a lot of the handicapping and you can try and go through a lot of the trends, but all it takes is for a car to get loose in the front and then everybody's day is ruined. So really what we always preach to on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast is just go light on these, enjoy the race. Bet on people you want. I'm going to suggest that you put a little something on Priest and Briscoe, because how much fun is it going to be to put something on the shake and bake mobiles? I mean, Wonder Bread sponsoring the 41 and then Old Spice sponsoring the 14. Dude, I am all over that. I want to see those guys slingshot engage. Like, I am ready for Talladega Nights. And I mean, we don't ever really say to put anything on Priest and Briscoe, but this kind of race, you can't, because it's all about just picking the guys that you want to cheer for and have fun at the end of the day watching.
Yeah, definitely stay tuned for that, because you may have some bets on those two in our parking garage props a little later.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Briscoe has shown something here the last couple of weeks as well. He's been fast at times. Priest has been better than most. I don't necessarily have any bets for Priest in the arsenal this week. I did last week and got effed over by that late round caution. But yes, something to keep in mind there. I am glad we have a little bit of fun here towards the end of the season. Shout out SHR for pulling that one together. We got Didi in the chat tonight. What's up, Didi? Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate you and all the IBT family making time for us on your Thursdays. Elliot, what does it mean? We know when we head to these super speedways, we don't get as much track time with these drivers. Qualifying, usual time, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday, 1 lap, 2 rounds, but no practice. What does that mean for you?
Yeah, I mean, these guys are used to running the super speedway package. No practice obviously shows that. Qualifying doesn't mean a whole lot here, I feel like. Obviously, if you can run up front early it shows everybody else in the field, hey, this guy's got a decent car. He's good to run with. But there are some times where if you qualify in the mid-20s, maybe you're dropping back anyway, or it's not very easy, but like you can maneuver your way to the front if you're smart in stage 1, even if you're starting in 30th. You can make it up there by the end of the stage. So qualifying, I feel like, means a lot less this week, or significantly less than it does normally. And honest to God, the super speedways are fun, but being on a betting show, I'm kind of glad it's the last super speedway, because it almost is extraordinarily awkward to come on a betting show and be like, hey, we want you to bet these, but also this is a really weird, really chaotic track to bet, and you shouldn't bet a lot. That's kind of an awkward take to take on a betting show where we try to make you guys money every single week.
Yes, and I do agree with that take. And I will say this, though, at least for me, the second half of the season, these super speedways, these larger tracks have actually been very good to me in my bankroll a little bit. I don't know, some of that might just be chalking it up to luck, but I feel like there are some really good drivers. We've been tailing at a lot of these by now, and we kind of know them. And I will say, speaking to your point about qualifying here, and Rod, I would love your input on it. Nearly 70% of winners still come from the top 10 on the grid here at Talladega. However, we have seen deep field drivers come out and win this before. Jeff Gordon back in 2036 comes all the way up, and then Denny Hamlin back in 2014 from 34th.
It's really more about who's patient enough to ride this out. I mean, there's a lot of drivers, especially the younger drivers, that think I got to be up front and I've got to stay up front. And that's where I've got to be, because all of the chaos happens behind the front. But for some of these veteran drivers, kind of like what you were saying, the ones that just know the ebbs and the flow, that any Hamlins of this, that can feel the temperature of the race itself, rather than trying to race the track or track position. They're racing the race. Those are the guys that outlast everybody else usually at the end. Those are the ones that are running at the end. And those are the ones that you want to hone in on, really, as what it is. But again, I mean, I see your point, Elliot. I know that it's rough to say, here we're giving betting advice, don't bet. But also just to give the disclaimer to people, because, there are people that love to put big money bets down. On this type of a track, you stand to lose more than you stand to gain. So it's just a tempered expectation is all. Go crazy if you want, but understand, this is a track where that can happen, and all your stuff is tied up in it. So just be careful is all we're saying, cautiously.
Yeah, true. Maybe that's how we make you money, is to say, don't spend as much money, keep a little bit in that bankroll for some of these more traditional tracks to come. And the point of, a lot of winners still coming from the top 10 and guys wanting to run up front, we saw this a lot, I feel like maybe late 2000s, early 2010s, where if you were hoping to win, there would be guys who would sit in 30th all day long and just get up there at the end. That was a lot different when we had the 2-car tandem, if you guys remember.
Yeah,
The two of you just sit in the back until 50 to go and then make your charge. But I feel like a guy like Dale Earnhardt Jr., who won so many of these races, the advice that he gives to everybody, including these young drivers that ask him, hey, you were one of the masters on super speedways. How did you do it? It's not from sitting in the back. It's you go out there and try to lead every lap, take every run, make every block that you can. And if you start up front, it's easier to run up front. It's easier to finish up front. So if you get lucky and stay out of the chaos, start 7th, finish 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, you're in better shape there as well. So it's not totally discounting qualifying. But again, some weeks it's damn near impossible to pass, and that's the opposite of Talladega. You can pass.
Yeah, and just be smart with the unit allocation. I think that's like the bottom line here. You don't need to be throwing out a full unit on a lot of these wagers. Like I'm doing a lot of half, a lot of quarter units, even some tenths of a unit on some of the bets I found. So let's talk some other trends here. We are in the 5th playoff race, and I do kind of like these trends a little bit. I think they're fun to look at. Brad Keselowski and Kevin Harvick lead active drivers in the 5th playoff race of the season, 2 each. And man, when you're looking at this as well, twice the winner of this 5th race has gone on to win the ship. And 3 times a non-playoff driver has won this race, including Bubba in 2021. That's just the 5th playoff race, not Talladega in general. So something to keep in mind there. And then the stages this week, 60, 120, and 188. So yeah, about usual. I kind of like the stage distribution for this week. It's pretty even. So anything else on the trends, comps? I think you guys laid it out pretty well.
I think so too. I think we're about ready to make our DFS picks in this week's Tire Tiers. So a couple of additional entries this week. The Colleague number 13 is in with Chandler Smith, as well as that absolutely beautiful Monster the Beast. It's a white number 36 car with Riley Herbst in there. I don't know if you guys have seen the scheme yet, but it's super awesome. Hocevar is still in the 42 this week. He's been doing really well for Legacy. Brennan Poole is in the Rick Ware 15, JJ Yaley in the 51. Otherwise, it's pretty much exactly what you expect. So, Rod, where are we starting off with this week's driver A's?
Oh my goodness. Well, I will go with the 17 car. Honestly, I really love what these RFK guys have been doing lately, and really, if you look back at his track history here, it is great. But I'm more focused too on what those two guys can do together. I mean, they have been running together, and they pretty much stick to each other through thick and through thin. Obviously, we saw it in Daytona, right, where Brad Keselowski unselfishly gave himself up so that Chris Buescher could taste victory in that. So definitely that's recency bias right there for me as far as what we've seen at a super speedway between these guys. And they've just had speed. I mean, these RFK guys, top 10 machines for the last few races. And even on this track earlier in the year, Chris Buescher had a third place finish in this race, started 10th and finished third in the spring in Talladega. So recent history here as well. And then just looking at what he's done over the last few weeks, 3 of his last 5 races have all been top 5 finishes with that one win at Daytona. So there is some consistent speed going on from Chris Buescher. And to be honest with you, this is the highest I think we've ever had him, but I think it's well earned.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, Chris Buescher really is the breakout driver of the 2023 season. You're paying up for him. He's $10,000 on DraftKings, and you're going to be paying up for his teammate too, Brad Keselowski, at $10,500, the highest in the field. But guys, what do we always say about the RFK cars with our tiers? If you're going to have one, you're going to have the other, sure, not too far behind him. And I think this is the week for Keselowski. Buescher's gotten a handful of wins since the RFK has been a thing. Keselowski's had good runs. He's had a few that he's arguably choked away that the 17 has, taken from him, earned from him, whatever. I think this is the week we see the Brad Keselowski, coming out party, finally getting his first win with his own team, finally making it happen at one of his favorite places to win, Talladega. That 17 car will be right behind him. So if you get a nice little 1-2 there, it's sort of the same thing as Rod when you say you only pay the juice if you lose. You only lose out on points with these big drivers if they finish like crap. If they finish well, which I think these guys finish in 1-2, would be arguably the most predictable and least surprising outcome of the weekend. I think this is Keselowski's week to get it done. And these RFK Fords being at the front all day would be absolutely no shock to me.
Yeah. Also, speaking of a driver who should be at the front and wouldn't be a shock to me, Denny Hamlin, throw him up there, Elliot. Yep. We're going super chalky here at the beginning, but with Hamlin, man, you look back at these recent races, even last week, he actually had a little bit of adversity here in the pits. Kind of a bad call from his crew, in my opinion, to bring him down for the tires that they did at the end of that race. But last year or earlier this season at this track, third by mid-race, spent 76% of the laps inside the top 15. Denny Hamlin's been on a heater, and even though Talladega necessarily isn't his best track to date, it's hard to get away from who's really been the class of the field the last 2 months in the Cup Series.
Yeah, and look, for those Joe Gibbs cars, they're consistently fast on super speedways anyways. So, and, Toyotas are going to want to stick together. So yeah, Denny Hamlin, he's going to be sneaky good. And like what I said earlier, he knows how to feel out this track. He knows the feeling of the race. So he's not going to put himself into unjust harm, except if he does stay in the back and then get knocked out of that as well. But all right, I am going to give you Martin Truex Jr. in this case. On this track, again, he's one of those Toyotas, right? I think he's bound. He's suffered so much, and that mulligan is gone now for him. So he needs a good run on this track. Did not get a good one out of him earlier in the season. He did lead 19 laps on this, started 7th, finished 27th. So he's looking for a little bit of redemption. Time's running out for this 19. He needs a good run. So I'm okay with putting him. I'm not going to go heavy on him, obviously. I don't think that you guys should out there, but definitely in a couple of GPP lineups. He's only $8,000. So, for a guy that was the regular season champion, you're getting him at $8,000. It may be rough and it may not look pretty for 3/4 of the race, but I think Martin Truex could climb his way up to a decent finish in this race.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Truex too, that's a great price for Truex, but he's run so many super speedway races and still, still waiting for that elusive trick to victory lane, I believe.
It's crazy.
One of
That's
those
crazy.
has never gotten a win there, even back in the DEI days early, not being able to get it done. I don't hate Truex here. I'm still sticking with the Fords here, and I'm still sticking with the high prices. He's the second highest in the garage at 10-2 on DraftKings. But Ryan Blaney, he's won here multiple times in this fall race at Talladega and in the spring. He's one of those guys that is relatively secretly a master of this place. Blaney, one of those guys that is not necessarily a title favorite, but at a place like Talladega, you have to keep an eye on him.
Yeah, man, Ryan Blaney. I mean, the books love him for a reason. He's arguably the favorite across a lot of these sports books this week, so it'd be dumb for us not to put him in the top tier here. I also think we'd be remiss not to put William Byron in this top tier as well. Number one in the total speed rankings from Talladega earlier this season. The guy just finds ways to win. He finds ways to, even like last week, he did not have the fastest car. I don't even say he had a top 3 or 4 car, but he's just around. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He has a great pit crew. And at the end of the day, that gets wins here. So, give me some William Byron this week. And I will say it's kind of fun to note as well. Martin Truex Jr. had pretty much for the last 7-8 weeks, maybe longer than that, maybe going back even a couple more months, has led in DK points per race. Denny Hamlin's getting a little bit closer, right in there with just about a half a point behind him in the averages. And William Byron also creeping up as well. So I'm excited to kind of see how that shakes out if MTJ still is leading that stat by the end of the year.
Yeah, Byron, for what it's worth too. I mean, a good run last week will definitely go a long way in confidence, knowing that you don't have to be super on point for this race. So that means he can sort of keep himself out of the fray and quite possibly be at the right line at the right place at the right time for a good finish. So I'm ready to move down to the B's. Are you guys? Is there any A's up there for you? Okay.
Any arguments of Bubba Wallace in the tier A's?
I just can't, man. I just can't. Like until he can get that monkey off his back again. Listen, I want Bubba to win more than anyone. I have the season win total over on him that I've been hoping to cash all fucking year. So I'm ready for it. I don't think I can do it here. Rod, your thoughts here?
It's not that I don't think he can. I don't think he will. That's the only problem. It's just that he's not navigating the situations. He's not driving to the moment. He's out driving himself in his head as he's going around. And it's a lot like what Kyle Busch is going on right now. Just sold KBM. Like there's a lot of distractions going on and it cycles through. And these drivers have to be on point all the time. And I mean, Bubba's a good B driver. I will give him that, but I don't know if I'm going to put him in the A's this week. So, but I will put Chase Elliott in the A's. That is what I will do. Although Elliott, do you want to make a case for no, in the B's? In the B's.
Oh, you did say the A's. My fault.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. That's
You're all good.
I was saying, did you want to make a case for Bubba though in the B real quick?
Yeah, I mean, you guys pretty much made the case for me. The only thing I can say is he's been there and done that before. He knows how to win on the super speedways, which maybe is a little different with his psyche. I know we talk about his psyche and his, anxiety and all that shit more than any other driver, but he's been there and done that at Talladega. I think he's probably got more confidence on the super speedways as anybody, more confidence on the super speedways than he does on any other track. I think he's certainly worthy of a B. We can consider that my pick too if you want, but in any case, Bubba as a B. I would put him A-, but I'm okay with you guys throwing him in the B's.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of advanced metrics that point me towards Bubba this week, 100%. Look at laps led at this track here in the spring, 35. That's the second most. You look at mid-race, he was first. But then what he finished, 28th. And I think that's the issue, what it might come down to. He's right around that cut line, though. So how aggressive is he? That's the question for me.
Right. Which that's a dangerous thing. Aggressive enough to win, but also aggressive enough to make a bad block and finish 27th. So
yeah, I think he's safe. I think he's going to get you stage points. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right, go ahead, Rod. Chase Elliott.
Okay, no, so Chase Elliott. I mean, look, this has been kind of a rough go. Obviously, not in the playoffs. Just now, he's just kind of driving around for pride. But as far as DFS is concerned, on this track in particular, it's not bad actually for DFS purposes. He started 29th in the fall or in the spring rather, and finished 12th. Led 18 laps along the way. That's a hell of a DFS day right there. In the fall of 2022, started 16th, finished first, led 10 laps. in the spring of 2022, started 28th, finished 7th. Place differential on this track. That is key. That is clutch. That is huge. He has done that 3 straight races. He's given you place differential. And in one of those, he even won you the race. Plus, he's led some laps along the way. So Chase Elliott, I think, can get it done on this track. Obviously, he's a talented enough driver. We know he can get it done anywhere at any time. Question is this going to be the time? That's the only thing, is can he stay out of trouble? Can he keep his cool? And can he collect a good finish like he has in the past?
Seth, I'll go ahead and pass it to you since we'll call Bubba my pick for this round.
Yeah, I would. I'm gonna have to go with the driver who is slowly finding some speed, slowly finding himself maybe as well. He's currently 6th in the playoff standings, guys. Give it up for Ross Chastain. I'm back in. I've been off him for months and months. I am fucking back, boys. 2nd place at Texas. He showed me a lot last week. I think slowly we're seeing a little bit of the speed come back Trackhouse's way. And looking back to the spring here, Ross was 5th in the total speed rankings, ran 70.9% of his laps inside the top 15. That's the 6th best. I think Ross is another guy can get you some stage points early on in this race and kind of keep up there most of it. So I'm hoping he stays out of trouble. That's what we're looking with Ross. He's been a little hot and cold as of late, but 2 top 5s in the last 4 for him. I'm going to fire up some Ross Chastain this weekend.
I don't hate that. I'm a little higher this week on him too than I have been over the past few weeks. Slowly finding some confidence. And again, this one car needing good runs to make it into the next round of the playoffs. I'm on board.
Elliot's back again. Rod, are you back in on Rossi, and who else do you have in this B tier?
You know, reluctantly, I am in on Ross. I have a bet that is a very high finish for Ross Chastain this week. So I'm with you, Elliot. I'm with you, Seth. I definitely can see a good finish for the number 1 car. Who else do I have? I'm embracing the full spirit of chaos in Talladega. Put Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in the B's, my friend.
I don't hate that.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. at Talladega. Listen, in the fall, 33rd place start. Finished 15th in that race. He got you in that race a grand total of dang it, where was it? I had it just right here. I
have a lot of DFS points, I'm sure.
A lot of DFS points. Yes, he did indeed. But yeah, he got you a fairly decent amount. But again, for Ricky Stenhouse Jr., even this season, if you look back, he's got a couple of 10th place finishes already in the last 2 races, which if you were to tell me that Ricky Stenhouse would get me 50 points in back-to-back weeks, priced 6,900, nice, and 7,000. Now he's coming in at 8,500. If I get that kind of performance out of him again this week, I would absolutely love Ricky Stenhouse, especially like I said, as a B driver. So not bad there. I'm telling you, it's a lot to look forward to for Ricky Stenhouse, and I think he's going to surprise some folks.
Yeah, I like Ricky this week too. You know, obviously winning that Daytona 500 sent this team on what was a really good year for them. Obviously, the playoffs didn't go the way they wanted. They were a popular pick for a first-round elimination, and that's what happened. But still a year to be proud of for the 47 team. Wouldn't it be great to send it out with their 2nd win of the season for sure in that 47? I think I'm going to go Kyle Busch here. I was tempted to go a couple of different ways, but Kyle's price all the way down to 8,700. That's a pretty good deal for the 8 car. Yeah. Obviously, he's had an up and down season. He's had a couple of wins. He won in the spring here. He's had a couple of rough finishes. Rod, you mentioned about selling KBM and all that, maybe as a distraction. I almost think maybe that'll help him, you know, almost the monkey off his back, a bit of relief there. That team was maybe not heading in the best direction. Now he's like, all right, I had this great run with this. Now it's done for. He's focused on what's happening with RCR. It'd be a great weekend to, celebrate the legacy of KBM and lock that 8 car into the playoffs in the next round, pulling off the sweep at Dega.
Yeah, man, I'm about it. Look, I went heavy on Kyle Busch last week, very heavier than I probably should have. But man, I don't know. I think he can bounce back here. I'm trepidatious, so I'll be honest, Elliot. I got royally fucked last week. I was feeling real good after the first couple laps of that race, but I feel you.
Yeah, I'm not even in on the 8 car this week. In fact, I'm fading him for sure. And it's just not that he can't do it, but I know that it's a weight lifted off his shoulder, but it's still weight that he's carrying into this particular race. I don't think the emotion of what just happened is going to leave him as he straps in. I think, he's still going to get to him. And he even said it in his interview, is like, if anybody's got any ideas, I'm open to it. I don't even know what to do anymore. So he looks lost right now.
I see both sides of the coin. I totally get that. I totally respect that. I still think we get, KFB, the driver, going out there running his ass off at Dega, worthy of a B- spot. But we'll see. Talladega is always a nice little coin flip. I'm cool with that.
All right. Well, I'll take your KFB and I'll raise it to my CB, baby. Give me some Chase Briscoe. Yes.
Cal Lawton Jr. on the board here in the Old Spice car.
Yes. Lock and load the Old Spice car here. And listen, man, Chase Briscoe, I have not played him over in our Fantrax League this entire year. I've avoided him on DraftKings most this year as well. I'm in this week, man. Coming off a top 10 performance here. And let's also not forget, back in the spring, qualified fourth, finished fourth. Chase Briscoe has a little bit of something here for Talladega. 6th among active drivers in average finish here for his career. 2 top 10s, 4 top 20s. I don't think Chase Briscoe's burning you this week. And that's something you can't say very often. 6,500 for Briscoe. I'm in as a leverage play.
So we prefaced everything as we were giving out our picks. It's Dega. I mean, picks like this, it's Dega. Like I will definitely agree with you on this one, because anything can and will happen. And Briscoe can run in the front. I don't know what's stopping him lately. I know it's SHR not being all that great, but he can run in the front. So it's not as if he's one of these other cars that aren't running up the front every single week. So it's Dega, baby. I'll take that as with you as well. All right, I guess it's on me. Eric Jones. Let's put him in the C. I don't feel comfortable putting him in the B. Are we good in the C's? I'm sorry, I didn't even ask.
Yeah, we're good.
Right. We're in the C's, yeah.
Okay, good.
We'll jump in if we got an argument to make, Rod. No worries.
This is true. I mean, I feel like I know at this point, but Eric Jones, $7,800 this week. And for Eric Jones, my friends, tell me what the last 3 finish. Can you guess what the last 3 finishes for Eric Jones on this track have been?
I have no fucking idea. I'm gonna be honest.
Probably better than we think. He feels like one of those sneaky guys you don't talk about all day. You look up at the end and it's like, oh fuck, Eric Jones was 7th. Where did he come from?
Ooh, Elliot, you're close. The devil would love his last 3 finishes: 6th, 6th, and 6th. Those are his last 3 finishes at Talladega.
Be careful. Hopefully nobody's 666. Not everyone's favorite number, but
I'm just saying that's what it is.
Don't shoot the messenger.
I'm only reading the stats here. And in that span, he led 25 laps in the spring of 2020, 23 in the fall of 2022, and then 3 laps in the spring on his way to a 6th place finish. In those, though, more impressive than a 6th place finish is where he ended up starting in these. In the spring of 2022, 16th place finish up to a 6th place start, led 25 laps. Great DFS day, right? In the fall, 12th place finish or start, 6th place finish, 23 laps led, even a still decent DFS day. This spring, started 24th, finished 6th, led 3 laps. You'll take that from a guy who is $7,300 this week, or $7,800 this week. So, I mean, Eric Jones is a C driver, and with the way he's been running lately too, he's one of the only Legacy Motor Club cars that you hear on the broadcast talking about, oh, look, Eric Jones is in the top 10, and sure enough, there he is in the top 10. So I mean, I don't hate Eric Jones as a C driver this week at all.
Yeah, and I mean, shout out to Legacy. Basically, Seth, ever since we talked to him at Pocono, maybe we were one of the magic charms there, but Eric Jones has run well, and Legacy in general has run pretty well. I mean, Carson Hocevar has put together some really good runs in that car. Obviously, they're switching to Toyota. They're all excited about that, but they're not going out with a whimper here in these Chevrolets. Props to them for improving their program here in the last third of the year.
Well, and let's not forget too, like, they're kind of shut off from the Chevy pipeline. I don't know what information they're getting.
Entirely shut off.
Exactly. I don't know what information they're getting. I don't know what resources they're getting. And for them to perform as good as they have down the stretch here, like, Eric Jones is a really, really good driver. And I think that's what we're seeing here. And I think it's a good program. And hopefully maybe next year they can kind of, I don't think we're going to see an RFK jump or a Trackhouse jump out of them, but I think we can see a nice jump from them when they go to Toyota. So shout out to them. A great call there. And I think you might as well throw Hocevar up in this one too, Elliot. I mean, Talk
Wow.
about a guy who's just continuing to show that he belongs in the Cup Series. Carson Hocevar, I know you, a couple people are riding some tickets on him last week. Didn't cash, but all the way down at 5,900, a guy averaging 25 DK points. I think he belongs there too, Elliot.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're totally right with Hocevar belonging in the Cup Series. I'm assuming it's only a matter of time until that deal is signed and an announcement is made. Obviously, Jones is a talented driver. Obviously, John Hunter Nemechek is a talented driver. Obviously, Mike Rockenfeller, who's back in that car at the Roval next week, is a talented driver.
Rocky.
Getting some good drivers in that car. Not that the drivers who have been in that car before are not talented. I'm just saying the way they have things right now, the drivers that are in those cars right now, it's a good spot for them to be in. So I'm just the same as we think the 6 and the 17 can be up there fighting for it. Seeing the 43 and the 42 work together, have a little bit of fun near the front of this Talladega field will be a lot of fun too. All right, I'm thinking of another little Talladega twofer here. Obviously, you guys can throw in some thoughts on both of these guys. I'm going to throw Joey Logano in the C's. I was honestly really tempted to put him even in the A's. But his price at $10,100, the third highest in the garage.
It's absurd.
It's an absurd price. He still does have, he's still one of the super speedway masters. He's won multiple times here. He's won the Daytona 500 before. But just more often than not, Logano has ended up flipping into Bubba Wallace's onboard camera or whoever that was a couple of years ago more than he has ended up in victory lane. So just at that price with how he's run lately and already being eliminated from the playoffs, it's just a little risky for that 22. And I also throw the 48 of Alex Bowman up there. This
Good
year,
call.
a very consistent year for him at super speedways. I read a tweet earlier. I never save these damn tweets when I should bring up, save these stats, get a little screenshot or something. But he was in the top 5, if not the top 3, for most points scored on super speedway, either on super speedways or at Talladega with the next gen. And obviously last year with the concussion, he did not run Fall Talladega. But in each of the last 3 Fall Talladega races that he's run, he has either been crashed or crashed himself, whatever you want to say about those incidences. He has crashed out of the lead in all 3 of those races earlier than he should have. So obviously he can run up front here. It's just a matter of not making dumb moves, staying out of other people's shit. And same with Logano too, not making the dumb block in stage 1 to take out a third of the field early. These are guys who have the upside if they aren't dumb and if they can stay out of other people's dumb shit.
Yeah, I've been eyeing Alex Bowman a little bit. He had a really nice run here. I believe he was 6th in the spring. He finished there. Or excuse me. He finished 13th. But had top 10 total speed ranking that day. Logano, meanwhile, total speed ranking for him earlier this season here, 34th. That's why I was just stunned that, and he had a terrible finish as well. So yeah, I was stunned at that price. I can't pay it. I don't think I can pay Larson's price either this week, just giving his history. 9,000 flat. He is a guy that's still averaging just about 30 or 42, 43 DK points per race. So I'm a little bit intrigued with Larson, but again, it's another monkey on his back type of situation, crashing out of a lot of races he shouldn't. Now I think Larson's actually in a little bit of a danger here. 2 points above the cut line. We'll see what happens. Also, shout out Eric in the chat. What's up, Eric? We appreciate you, man. Yeah, Larson.
I have nothing nice to say of Kyle Larson. Love him as a race car driver. Love him as a human being. But as a super speedway racer, I'm going to heed to our first commandment. Thou shalt always fade Kyle Larson on super speedway. So,
yeah. And he's even been snake bit on super speedways before. It's not even just bad luck. It's like the one year he just had a mechanical problem 5 laps in and couldn't get anything.
He knows it too. He knows it. I think he hates coming to these tracks. So yeah, I'm in with the fade with you as well. I think he, based on talent and equipment, he's got to be in this 3rd tier.
Yeah. And Talladega is tough too, because we can make an argument for 15 of these guys left on the board to be in C. Obviously, we're not going to do that, but that's Dega for you as well.
Yeah.
Well, I'll throw one up there. Throw the 99 car up there.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. And it's not because he's been spectacular as of late. In fact, poor Daniel Suarez has been sort of the afterthought where, Chastain's been on the rise. Daniel Suarez is sort of plateaued, but on this track in particular, not bad for Daniel Suarez. An 8th place finish in the fall of 2022 and the 9th place finish earlier in the season. He started 22nd that day, finished 9th, led 5 laps along the way, led 2 laps in the end of 2022, coming off of a respectable 8th place finish in Texas, one of the bright spots for that team in this season. So I'm not hating it too much. He finished 2nd in Atlanta, which I get it. You guys can always point to it and say that's not a real super speedway. I know, but it is a super speedway-esque race, right? That's kind of a comp. Daytona, he was 7th. Like I said earlier in Talladega, he was 9th. So he's shown some speed in these pack races, and I think he'll do it again. And for C, I think that's a good. And then he's $8,100, which makes it even more of a tempting C play.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all here. Again, I'm cheating a little bit. I'm going to throw multiple drivers up on the board here just to start the discussion and keep it going.
Get
I
it?
think all Stewart-Haas Racing is worthy of a D. You know, just to not fill up the C territory. If any of you have an argument to put them a little higher, we've seen them all have success here. We've seen them all, Almirola dominating that race. Harvick, being Harvick, he's always got a shot here. And Ryan Preece in that damn Ricky Bobby Wonder Bread car. I don't know if you guys saw this, but they did. They put together about 2 minutes, he and Briscoe, of doing like in Talladega Nights to do the advertising, the sequence where they all do little ads for.
No.
They do that. They put 2.5 minutes together of them doing ads in that style for their partners at Stewart-Haas. But the one that they missed, though, obviously Busch Light is going out the window because they're heading with Ross Chastain. They didn't do that particular sponsor, but it was the perfect opportunity, especially with our affinity for Busch Light on this show. All we needed was I'm Ryan Preece, and if you don't drink Busch Light, then fuck you. That's all I wanted from that. And they didn't give it to me, but it was still very entertaining content. Again, very awesome that they're doing this weekend, even though they're both going to end up finishing in the mid-20s or
Easy. Yeah, we like Briscoe over here. We like Briscoe. Yeah, that was a mismarketing opportunity there. And
but I totally get it because they're leaving in 6 weeks, but still, that just would have been too good.
Yeah, you got to throw Chris Bell up here too. 8,300, actually kind of a little bit of a value here. He hasn't been great as of late. It's really hard to ever count on Chris Bell to do really much of anything other than piss you off when you put him in your DFS lineup or bet on him. But look, man, he was good on the super speedways earlier in the season. Not so much as of late. Finished 16th at Daytona 2, our latest super speedway. So he's right around there. I don't mind paying for him in DraftKings, but I think there's better options. Yeah, Riley Hersbt. Throw Riley Hersbt in this one too, man. Riley Hersbt, I'm so sick and tired of everyone saying, oh, Riley Hersbt is cheeks. This guy's cheeks. He can't even make it in Xfinity. He can't make it in Cup. Come on, man. Riley Hersbt has been good. He was dicing it up earlier in the season in both the super speedways appearances. And then at Daytona.
500, I think, right?
Yes, and then at Daytona again earlier last time around, didn't have a good finish. Actually tanked you really bad if you played him in DFS that day. However, he was running really well for a lot of that race. Almost finished the first stage in the points. So I like Riley Hersbt. I love that scheme this week as well, Elliot. He's on the thumbnail. Shout out Riley Hersbt, 5,500. Let's go get him, little Huckleberry. Let's go get him.
Yeah, I mean, you can't beat. That's just an absolute dirt cheap price for a guy like that who's got the potential to get a top 15 for you, even for no other reason than just he's the token guy who made it through all the wrecks.
Yeah.
Speaking as someone who's making it through the wrecks, what do you guys feel about JJ Yeley up in this mix?
Honest to God, I don't hate it.
As a D driver, right? As a D driver, he did finish 11th in this race in the spring, right?
Shout out JJ.
38th place start for JJ Yeley and an 11th place finish. That is a fantastic day for a driver that usually runs around the back of the track. So, and then just looking at what he's done over the last couple of weeks, I mean, look, he got you 46 points last week at Texas, throwing out Bristol because that was a -10. Poor 31 car couldn't even get going, but 30 points before that, 27, 30, right? I mean, he's gotten you somewhere in the vicinity of 30 points over the last few races. So for a guy that's only $6,000 this week, if you can get 5 times his value on a track like Talladega, that's not bad. Give me JJ Yeley.
Hell yeah.
Here for that. Just a little bit of cleanup here, I think. Again, I'm cheating, throwing multiple guys up. I think both of the other monster cars, the 45 and 54, have to be at least D's just because of equipment.
Dude.
What do we think? We think maybe some F's here? Go ahead.
Tyler Reddick, total speed ranking, 36 at this track earlier this season. I don't know, man. Tyler Reddick scares the absolute piss out of me. I want no part.
8,200 too. All right.
Yeah, throw him in the. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Ty Gibbs, not much better, but at least he's 6,900. I can get behind that. Yeah, Elliot, who else do you want to shout out here? Because I think we can start doing some cleanup on aisle 5.
My only other D I was thinking was McDowell. Again, same sort of thing as Stenhouse. You know, the super speedway runs are respectable. The playoff run wasn't what he wanted, but there's still the pedigree here that I think he's worthy of the D- we're putting him in.
Yeah. Throw Chandler Smith in the Fs, Elliot. I mean, averaging a shit ton on DK, 38 points per race. That's really, really good. I don't mind that. That's up with some elite categories. I know it hasn't been a lot of starts for him in this 13 car, but I do like Chandler a little bit. And just because we always, I don't think we've ranked him once this year. Maybe we have. Can we get some Ty Dillon on the board this week?
I thought you were heading that direction, but
yeah, Ty Dillon, number 4 among active drivers in average finish here, 15th. He has 9 top 20s. So it's not always great for Ty Dillon. It's not always easy being cheesy for Ty Dillon, but let's not forget as well, the guy finished 14th here earlier this season. So if you haven't played him yet this year like I have, maybe now's the time. I do like the number 77 a little bit this week.
Could do a lot worse. And, you know, he's got to hit him in the Cup Series. You know, his time's almost done, so he's got to have one more good run left. Go ahead, man.
Yeah. Okay. It's Dega, baby. That's my only argument on that one. It's Dega. Anything can and would happen. So if I'm making a case for JJ Yaley, I guess, you know, or making a case for Ty Dillon's not that far fetched.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I think, can we get a BJ? Can we get some BJ here as well?
He was who I was going to bring up. I didn't know if Rod had another pick to make.
No, I'm good, man. You guys have at it.
Shout out to BJ McLeod. Live Fast is selling their charter to Spire for their third car that Zane Smith is going to run next season full time. You know, this team, they try to do it old school, and the super speedways are really their only shot at making some noise. BJ is not the worst super speedway driver. Has a couple of top 10s here. Had a top 10 here in that Gatorland car. That was Daytona in the fall, but still, same old super speedway runs. It's going to be nice to see this team part time and still working their way at it. And most of all, they got paid. So congratulations, pop that champagne, BJ McLeod and Matt Tifft. They got $40 million charter that may not even exist next year or 2 years from now. Next year is the last year of the charter system. They haven't renewed it yet. It may not come back. They got They got Spire to pay them for like $40 million for only one guaranteed year of racing. So congrats to them boys.
Hell of a business move for our boys over there at Live Fast. I enjoy that. And 18th here in the spring for BJ. So yeah, I think you can get a little BJ McLeod action in there as well. I don't want to rank maybe Justin Haley. Should we rank him? I do want to talk some shit on some other drivers, but I don't necessarily want to rank them, if that makes sense.
I don't know about ranking him. The only 2 guys I have an argument for the Fs would be Cindric and LaJoy. If there's an objection, I'm fine leaving them out too. But
you can put LaJoy up there, make Cody happy.
Yeah, because I mean, we always want LaJoy every super speedway. It's like, man, maybe Corey LaJoy's finally gonna get done, and it never happens. But hey, I've talked more shit about Spire than possibly anybody in the NASCAR podcast scene like this. You know, I've talked a lot of crap on I don't think they're a real racing organization. You know, I think they're just in it for the money. Blah blah blah. They're going all out. They're proving me wrong. They're keeping LaJoy around as a cornerstone. They're probably going to have a really talented driver in Hocevar in their other car, and they're getting a really talented guy in Zane Smith on loan in their third car. They are going for it, and they bought KBM. They are going for it. They want to compete. They want to win. I'll have the egg on my face for that too. They are going for it, and I'm proud of them for that.
They got some deep fucking pockets over there. Let me tell you, bro. Fucking Jeff in the
they're like they represent drivers and they're in other businesses and stuff. Their main money isn't the motorsports. Their motorsports is, hey, let's spend all this fucking money we make and let's go have some fun with it. They spent their first couple of years running in the shitters, you know. They're building up some of that money, building up some of that experience. Now they're going for it. I didn't see the plan before. Now I see the light. Let's go Spire. You know, good for them.
Good for old Spire. We appreciate them. I have no one else I want to rank then. Justin Haley, 4th in the total speed rankings here earlier this year. I know it's kind of been gross finishes. Almost a top 10 car last week, though. He screwed me out of my Ryan Preece bet, so that was fun. Yeah, I just want to shit on Austin Cindric, 26 here. And I mean, I just can't. I just don't get it, man. I don't get how you have such good equipment and you're averaging 17 DraftKings points. Like, that is worse than Ty Dillon. That is worse than JJ Yaley. That is worse than like everyone on this board, almost BJ. I just don't get it. It pisses me off. I don't know. He was so good last year. It's like the Looney Tunes or like those characters, the little Martian guys came in and just like zapped all his power or something. The dude is awful. I can't stand him.
Yeah, it's been a rough season for Cindric in that too. No love for Austin Dillon from any of us. Not really a surprise. What, you want to throw him up there, Seth?
No, four of his last 8 races, he's finished 30 plus. Last week, if he was going to have a bounce back, it was going to be there. His last top 10 this season, Richmond, July 30th. Gross. Yeah. No, don't do it. Don't play Austin Dillon.
Yeah, Austin Dillon, not really worth it. 7,000, he's ahead of 15 guys on this price list, more expensive. That's too expensive of a price.
Fucker's gonna lose me I've been winning the Fan Tracks League for about the last month or two. Finally have been winning. Play Austin Dillon last week, just totally shits the bed. So yeah, I'm good on that. Elliot, what else do you have on these other 4 chumpies?
Well, I threw Poole in the 15 up, thinking Yaley was in the 15. He's not in the 15. Brendan Poole's in the 15. I don't know if you guys remember, Brendan Poole arguably should have won an Xfinity race here a long time ago. They ruled it. I forget if they ruled the yellow came out or whatever. Elliot Sadler got that win. So, that's about it for Brendan Poole. Good on him for staying around the Cup Series. Allmendinger, I didn't even really want Haley to be ranked. I think Colleague is going to go out with a whimper this year.
Well, okay, hold on. I got one thing about AJ Allmendinger. He could surprise us. I mean, his odds for top 10, and I'm not going to give it out as a bet, but his odds for top 10 are actually tempting enough to where, because he's finished 6th here before. It's not as if he doesn't have a top 10 finish in this car. However, this season has just been rough for him. And so, yeah, but I will say, if there's one driver in this list that can surprise us, it would be.
Yeah, throw him on the board, Elliot. 12th in the total speed rankings. And if we like Haley, I think we should at least like Dingers just as much. I think Dinger's probably maybe the better driver at this point. I don't know. Yeah. What do you got on HB? What you got on HB here?
Not a whole lot. He's just one of those guys. It's just hard to be an up-and-comer in the next gen. It's a tough car to figure out. There's not a lot of practice time. Props to him for sticking with it. He's had some good runs. Same with Todd Gilliland, in the 38. Shout out to him for still being able to put together a full Cup season and surprising us sometimes. I just don't see a lot of upside for him at Dega.
If you remember, we bet Todd Gilliland for a top 10 here earlier this season, and he finished 10th. So I do like Todd a little bit, but it's just been the thing
about Talladega is all 5 of these guys that we have off the board, maybe the lowest number of guys, that could be 4th through 9th right there in the leaderboard.
Yeah.
5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th on your leaderboard in order, and it would be just as unsurprising as all of this being the finishing order of Talladega as we have it ranked. That's the beauty. That's the chaos. That's the frustration. That's the wonder of Talladega, everybody.
That's tire tears, baby. That's tire tears. Let's get it. All right. Ellie, what do you say, man? Should we get on top of the parking garage for a couple props here to round us out?
Yeah, I think we've got a few. Let's get a little more specific with that and go into the bets. All right, so before we hit the outrights, I'm the least, on the books all the time as you guys are. I noticed they had matchups not just for the race, but also qualifying matchups. That's something. Is that been normal the last few weeks? Is that just a Talladega thing? How has that been looking? I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah, we've been seeing that the last couple weeks here. It's been a new market here. I haven't explored it as much, but there are some good plus money values out there if you are interested in it.
Yeah, so that is something that they've kind of been offering on the steady. They threw it out a little bit early and then kind of took it back away, but they've been bringing it out. I know they brought it out for Bristol. I don't remember if they brought it out for Texas, but I know they got it here. So the only thing that I'd say about that is, like, how testy qualifying can be in this car. It's not always cut and dry as far as who's qualifying well. This is Christopher Bell on the pole. So it's tough to walk. I mean, all it takes is one bad lap for them, and it loses you money. So it's not like F1 where you basically know where everybody's going to start, so you might as well bet on them for qualifying. This little more up in the air, especially for Talladega. No way I'm laying any qualifying money on that.
Yeah, it's totally fair. None of the numbers looked very good to me. I just noticed that, and of course, being busy with stuff the last 2 weeks, I hadn't really looked at the books at all. I'm like, oh, this is kind of neat. So I appreciate your guys' insight on that. And let's go ahead and take a look at the outrights for this week. Obviously, with Talladega, you're not going to have any super duper crazy numbers. I think Keselowski was the favorite on Caesars at plus 1,000. So there's money to be made here, but obviously far larger of a pool of guys who can win.
Yeah, can we start with Brad, I guess, and I'll lay out the case for him because I think all of us probably want a little bit of piece of him. I have a half unit invested right now at 12-1 on Bet Rivers, and I think that could grow or shrink a little bit. So if you want to get invested, now might be the time. Also, plus 245 for a top 5. But looking at most active wins among drivers here, it's 6 for Brad, 48% top 10 rate. And this season at super speedways, let's just go through these real quick for Brad. Dominated the duels, led 42 laps in the 500. Atlanta finished second, led 47 laps there. Dega finished 5th earlier this season. Atlanta 2 finished 6th in that race, 19 laps left. And he probably could have won Daytona here about a month or so ago, but he let Buescher have it, finished second in that one. I don't know what, like Brad was the highest ranking in my model this week. Everything's pointing me to Brad. I don't know how you don't at least throw something on him. Like, he's kind of snake bitten a little bit. Like, I don't know if he can actually win for some reason, but I think he'll at least get you a top 5.
I'll tell you this, though. You open the books and you expect super speedway goodness, and I don't think we got it this week. I think we've got some we got shorter odds. The books finally wised up to the fact that you can't throw out these astronomical numbers and expect people not to jump on them, because that's what super speedway racing is all about. So even Brad at 12-1, I mean, he's 12-1 in places like Superbook. I know he's on Bet Rivers as well. Like you said, I think Bet 365 is the same thing, but yeah, I mean, you're not getting those juicy like 18-1 numbers on these guys anymore. They're playing it close to the vest. So if you can grab a guy like Keselowski at 12-1, definitely take that.
Who else are you guys factoring in here for the outright market that we haven't touched on? Rod, I know you were interested in Buescher in the DFS tiers. Does that follow suit here in the betting?
Absolutely. He's 14-1 on Superbook and on places like Bet Rivers as well. So if you can get him at those types of odds, because if you look farther down the list, I mean, like we say, we can make a case for just about anybody, but it's so hard to want to throw something at something where I don't think is going to cash work. Buescher at 14-1 feels like a pretty safe bet on an outright market to me, just like Brad Keselowski does. So I know Bubba Wallace is at 14-1, but we just talked about Bubba Wallace. Like, Bubba Wallace at 14-1 is not the same type of investment as Chris Buescher at 14-1. The range of outcomes for Bubba Wallace is way more, even on a normal track. You take a super speedway into it, right? So I'm looking for a guy that I guess in fantasy terms has a high ceiling but a low floor. So that's what I want out of it, not somebody that's got like tons of space between both the ceiling and the floor. So I think Buescher's got a more safe cushion around him than does Bubba Wallace on this type of a track.
Yeah, when you look at the advanced metrics for Buescher, like, they weren't great here earlier in the spring, but he still had like a hell of a finish, finishing 3rd there. With how he's running lately, it's hard to get off of him, especially at the super speedways where, Brad's going to be around playing, big brother bully out there. So I'm with you there. Elliot, anyone else you want to throw out in the outrights? I do have one more for us as well that I'm interested in.
There were a couple numbers that were sort of interesting. Again, you can make a case for anybody. I saw at plus 2,000, you have both Ross Chastain and Kevin Harvick over on Caesars. And then MTJ at plus 2,800. Same thing with his DraftKings price. You just don't see a number quite like that on a guy like Martin Truex Jr. all that often. They all seemed halfway intriguing to me for sure, especially that 19 number.
Yes, I got on Ross. I actually had to open a new account this week. I had to go to BetMGM. Yeah, I'm a sucker. They got me. But 25-1 over there for Ross. Wow. And this is the most generous number for a playoff driver by far. We kind of chatted about him in the DFS. Hit or miss, showed some speed at Texas, finished second there, had a top 5 a couple races before that as well. 2 top 10s at Dega since he's been with Trackhouse. Those both came last season. 5th in the total speed rankings here in the spring. Ran 70% of those laps in the top 15, 6th best. And 5th at the total speed rankings at Daytona just a couple weeks ago as well. So, like, the current form speaks to him. The comp speak to him. And this is the guy who's won this race. So, man, I like Ross a lot this week at 25-1. I think that's a value.
Yeah, he's 25-1 over on Bet365 too, if that's available to you as well, if you don't have BetMGM.
Yeah. He was good at 20-1, 25-1. Hell yeah, even better. Sign me up.
All right. Rod, anyone else for you here in the outrights we haven't mentioned?
Honestly, no. I mean, Chastain and Buescher were the only 2 I had on there.
Sweet.
So we're right there, locked in.
All right. We're either riding in the glory this week or getting fucked together, boys. So glad to see that. Let's go to placement props. Anything we haven't touched on? Because all my placement props revolve around the guys that we just talked on. RFK, Ross, you can get plus 150 for a top 10. I love that at a half a unit as well. Anything else we haven't touched on for you guys?
I've got a couple of placements. Bubba Wallace, we were talking about, he's run well. Can he get over the hump to get to victory lane? I don't have his outright, but a top 5 at plus 200, not the most attractive number, but I do think, wide range of outcomes is a risky one. Rod, you kind of talked me out of that one. We got the Talladega Nights placement props bet here. A good old Cal Naughton Jr. in the Old Spice 14, top 5 plus 400. And the 41 Ricky Bobby at plus 140 for a top 10. Those guys getting up there, maybe a 5th and 6th sort of deal for Briscoe in the 14 and Ryan Preece in that 41. I think that's your best Talladega Nights bet of the week if you want to lay some coin on those guys. And Hocevar for a top 10 in the 42, plus 160. Again, not a super great number, but interesting enough that it was worth keeping a little eye on. Maybe a little bit of sprinkle on it.
Yeah, I don't mind Briscoe at plus 185 for a top 10. I think that's a little intriguing. I think Bet Rivers is kind of hanging him out there this week on that. So, yeah, I wouldn't mind taking the shot on that. I think, if anything, Elliot, top 5's a little rich for my blood, I think. But top 10, that might be an addition to the card there.
Yeah, I like Preece at 175 plus 175 for top 10 and Briscoe at plus 125. Those are pretty pretty decent prices for top 10. I'll give you one more top 10, and that's Eric Jones. We talked about it earlier about his 6th place finishes. Plus 120. Listen, I know that sounds low, and we live in a world of NASCAR betting where, you know, we're used to seeing gigantic numbers thrown all over the place. But for context, guys, Brad Keselowski is at minus 250 for a top 10 finish over on Caesars. So if you're getting any kind of plus money for anybody, especially on a super speedway for a top 10, that's not a bad bet. So Eric Jones plus 120 for a top 10. That's my favorite pretty much of the entire weekend.
I like it. I like it. Yeah. Let's go to matchups, boys. Anything in the matchup department? I found one that I will be hammering down. I think this is the only one that I got. I got Suarez over Austin Dillon. I talked about Austin Dillon, man. It's been dreadful. 4 of his last 8 races inside or outside the top 30, and finished 33rd here in the spring, 28th total speed ranking. And we like Suarez. You guys were kind of on Suarez with me in the DFS segment as well. Finished 9th in the spring, top 6 in total speed ranking, top 10 last week for him as well. That one feels pretty safe to me. If I don't love betting matchup super speedway, but I will be. I think I'll do a full unit, if not a unit and a half, on that one.
That's pretty bold, because matchups to me at a super speedway, you know, not that I'm a big matchup guy anyway myself. Maybe I'm just losing out on the coin there. I don't know. But matchups at a super speedway just feel like a complete fucking coin flip. You know, you can have that matchup flip-flop 1,000 times, and in the last 200 feet, bam, you lose your matchup. You know, just feels like a big coin flip. And the numbers just aren't there. I mean, more power to you. Unit and a half on that.
I'm ready.
Go ahead, man.
Fuck Austin Dillon.
Hell yeah, it worked. You know,
I'm winning the money back that he cost me last week, hopefully. So I'm tapped out on the betting card, though, guys. I kept it light. I kept it fun. I think I will be adding that Ryan Preece bet. That sounds like a good time waiting to happen as well. Anything from you, Rod, we haven't touched on?
So the only matchup, the only one I'm touching this week at all with anything is Christopher Bell over Kyle Busch. And even then, at minus 110, it's not a plus money bet that I want. But if I'm going to suggest one matchup, if you really, really want a matchup, like I said, I'm fading Kyle Busch. I think Christopher Bell could have a better finish, obviously, than Kyle Busch, because really it's just a matter of Kyle Busch not performing the way he wants to and not performing the way that team wants him to. So he's lost. And I think this is the time to pounce on it. So there is a matchup between Busch and Larson, but I can't take Busch over Larson.
Guys you fade the most. I don't know. I think you guys maybe have too much scoring on RCR this week. Those are the only matchups you're taking, just throwing the RCR guys in the dump. I totally get it, but I don't know. That's risky, especially at a super speedway, to take a matchup like that.
Anything else that you're betting on, Elliot, that we haven't touched on tonight? And I would say, if you can find it, I haven't seen a line available, but if you can get in on an RFK group bet and you can get both of them, I would imagine that number would probably be around 7-8 to 1. I would love to lock that in as well. I just haven't seen it out there.
Yeah, honestly, my specials card was a little lighter this week too. You know that I'm always high on whoever the longest odds manufacturer-wise are. Toyota to win is plus 360. I certainly don't hate that number. You got the Gibbs boys. Denny Hamlin's in that. Obviously, you got Bubba Wallace there. You got some downside, but you got two of the better plate drivers, or two of the better super speedway drivers in the sport there in that plus 360. A couple others here that I've talked myself out of. Another thing that I noticed that I don't notice was you can bet on the number of Chevrolets, Fords, and Toyotas to make the top 10. They set the over-under for Chevy and Ford at 4.5 and Toyota at 1.5. Not my favorite numbers, but again, something newer that I noticed that maybe has been there the last couple weeks and I've just been blind to it. But
yeah, I got fucked over in that market already. I left them. I know Rod and I tried to attack that a couple weeks ago when Rod was on the show. So yeah, you can miss me on that this week with those numbers even a little bit higher.
Hey, apologies to everybody who's already heard you guys talk about those, and I've just been away the last couple of weeks and not been looking at the betting cards. But
no. Seth, I'll back you up on RFK though. It's plus 700 for them as the race winner, the team of the race winner. That's on Bet365. So
come on, I need some Bet365 in my life right now. Yeah, I've been looking around for it, so hopefully that comes to fruition. I haven't found it anywhere yet, but come on, Pennsylvania sportsbooks, I need you, baby. I need you.
Right. Gotta go book hunting, or just I don't know if it's legal in Maryland yet. Drive a little bit further south the border there, or maybe I'll take a trip to Ohio, see what they got over there.
They actually have up the road here. They actually have a Barstool Sportsbook. You can I don't know if it's still technically a Barstool Sportsbook, but you can actually go at the racetrack here in Penn Nash, get a burger. Maybe I can get some. Maybe I have to go in person. Maybe I gotta get on my two legs this weekend, get in the truck, and go up the road, bet on some ponies and some NASCAR in person this week.
Film content for us. Watch Dega at the casino. Have a couple of brewskis. Have a good time up there.
There we go. Guys, I got nothing else. You guys got any words of wisdom, any bets, any final fuck yous to anyone? We've kind of shit on our RCR a lot this week. Hey, no beard motorsports. So that's a good. We don't talk about the money laundering scheme this week, boys.
And that's the first time in a long time they're not in a plate race. Austin Hill, with the Xfinity Series having the week off, he wanted to put his focus toward the Roval and that championship effort for him in Xfinity. That's why they are not present. If you're used to seeing that 62 car in the tiers, forgive me.
I wonder why he doesn't want to race in the 62 this week.
Point. I mean, we saw a couple of good runs there, and a nice spectacular flip from the Brendan Gaughan days at Dega. But Austin Hill just hasn't had the same sort of success there. I feel like that's just one of those, one of those teams that just ran 15% on engine power and 85% on good vibes. And
Rod, as we close out here, man, I know you and Cody are busy over at the NASCAR gambling podcast as well. Tell us what you got going over there, man.
Yeah, just if you haven't already, go back to the entire week. We've got break down the cup race, the truck race. We gave some DFS plays out today. Tomorrow there will be a special underdog fantasy episode where we'll give you our favorite underdog fantasy picks. So definitely join us for that. Again, this DFS was fun. We spun the wheel and made cases for all the drivers that popped up on it. So a fun little twist on DFS episode. So yeah, go make sure you check that out over there. And I mean, again, we're 5 nights a week until the end of the season, so you can't miss us.
Hell yeah. Elliot, for you and I, man, I think it's just here at IBT Media. Appreciate everyone tuning in, subscribing to the channel. Easiest way to support us is just doing that. And Elliot, we are effing loaded on the website right now, bro. Like, It's been nonstop, man, and we appreciate all the support. But we have about anywhere from 8 to 10, 11 pieces of written content coming out every single week. And Ryder Cup, we got some Ryder Cup going on, Euros versus the Americans. So good shit over there on the website, Elliot.
Oh yeah, for sure. I know, we're the NASCAR team, but shout out to the football team over at IBT and the golf boys as well. If you haven't taken a look at all that stuff, take a look at that, because hey, we win you so much money at NASCAR. You couldn't possibly want any more. But if you want a little more, go ahead and look at the football stuff, look at the golf stuff, look at everything we got over at In Between Media. Just getting better and better week by week. Gotta love being a part of the team. Thankful for everybody who's coming along the ride with us, subscribing, sharing our content, everything like that. Gotta love it. And, thank you as always for rolling on down the back road with us. And we hope to see you again next week as we head to the Roval for maybe the last time. Who knows? But Roval next week. Good luck at Talladega. Don't bet a whole lot, but bet a little bit. Get some sprinkles on that nice little cake of winnings you got. And enjoy the chaos at Dega.
Fade Austin Dillon. Bye.